OpenAI is redesigning ChatGPT's experience for teenagers, and the real test is whether guardrails can keep pace with the tool young people already use. Welcome back to Midnight Signal AI. It's July 17th, 2026.
Today, what OpenAI is promising teens and parents, Google's move to put live web evidence inside enterprise agents, and a reported Gemini delay that exposes the gap between an AI roadmap and a product ready to ship.
OpenAI's July 16th post says teens deserve access to safe AI, but only with age-appropriate protections, learning tools, parental controls, and guidance from outside experts. The immediate product change reported by The Verge is more frequent ChatGPT break reminders for teen users.
That distinction matters. A break reminder is a behavioral nudge, not a safety system. OpenAI is framing teen access as something to support rather than prohibit, which puts the burden on the company to make the experience meaningfully different from the adult product.
The company specifically groups protections with educational uses and parental tools. That suggests it is treating teens as a separate product population, not simply applying a content filter. But the announcement does not provide a rollout date, age verification method, or a detailed list of controls.
And those missing details determine whether parents can actually use this. The practical question is not whether ChatGPT can show a reminder. It is whether a platform can reliably know who is a teen, route them into the right settings, and avoid collecting more sensitive data in the process.
Google Cloud has partnered with Parallel Web Systems to make Parallel a native web grounding provider inside the Gemini Enterprise Agent platform. Google says customers can programmatically extract, permanently cache, and process web data alongside other language models. That makes web retrieval a component enterprises can build around, rather than a black box chatbot feature.
The pitch is factual accuracy, especially where an agent has to act on current information. Parallel's role is to return web evidence. Gemini is the reasoning layer that uses it. That separation gives developers another provider choice inside Google's agent platform.
It also creates a sharper procurement question. A company evaluating agents will now compare not just model quality, but the freshness, provenance, retention rules, and cost of the data layer beneath the model. In enterprise deployments, that layer can decide whether an agent is deployable.
Reuters, citing Bloomberg News, reports that Google has delayed a Gemini launch after the technology fell short of internal goals. Bloomberg separately carried the same report. Neither item in the supplied reporting identifies the model version, the original launch date, or the metrics that missed the bar.
The skeptic's read is simple. A delay can mean discipline, or it can mean the model is not competitive enough. Without a named product or benchmark, we cannot tell which, but internal goals are significant because frontier labs usually tune announcements around products that clear them.
Google has not announced this delay in the supplied material, so the strongest confirmed point is the report itself, not a diagnosis of what failed. It does, however, arrive as Google is expanding the surrounding Gemini enterprise stack through partnerships like Parallel.
That contrast is useful. Platform integrations can keep moving while a flagship model is held back. For enterprise customers, dependable tools and grounded retrieval may be more immediately valuable than waiting for an unspecified next-generation release.
StartupHub.ai reports that ChatGPT has gained computer control capabilities. The supplied item provides no technical documentation, availability tier, supported operating systems, safety boundaries, or confirmation from OpenAI, so this should be treated as a limited report rather than a fully specified launch.
Computer control is a different category from answering questions because errors can become actions, clicking, submitting, downloading, or changing settings. The missing implementation details are therefore not minor. They are the entire safety and usability story.
OpenAI has recently been pushing agentic work tools, so the report fits the product direction. Still, we don't have enough source detail here to claim a particular capability, such as autonomous browser use or desktop control, beyond the headline's broad description.
For users, the sensible threshold is confirmation and scope. A supervised feature with explicit permissions is fundamentally different from an agent that can complete multi-step tasks independently. Those are not interchangeable products, even if both get called computer control.
TechCrunch asks why OpenAI is selling a ChatGPT basketball, while Crypto Briefing describes it as the company's first hardware release. The supplied headlines establish that a ChatGPT branded basketball is being sold, but do not provide a price, specifications, sales channel, or evidence that it contains AI hardware.
The contrarian point is that this may be less about hardware than brand distribution. Calling a basketball a first hardware release could imply a major device strategy, but the supplied information does not show electronics, software integration, or any connection to the previously reported ChatGPT home device plans.
So we should separate the confirmed commercial oddity from the broader hardware narrative. The basketball is a real reported product category. The significance remains unclear until OpenAI explains what it is, how it's sold, and whether it's part of a larger consumer program.
Engadget reports that users can now grant Claude access to 1Password credentials. That's a consequential integration because a password manager contains the keys to accounts and services. The supplied headline does not specify which Claude plan supports it or what permissions the connection grants.
This is the human stakes version of agent software. A credential connection can remove tedious sign-ins, but it also asks users to extend trust from a password vault to an AI assistant. The core issue is whether access is narrow, visible, reversible, and logged.
Until the precise permission model is clear, organizations should not treat this as ordinary convenience integration. Credential-bearing tools require least privilege, approval steps for sensitive actions, and a record of what the assistant accessed and why.
Two outlets, finance.bigo.com and KuCoin, report that OpenAI released an official ChatGPT prompt guide with 8 tips alongside a feature described as Generate Anything. The supplied reports do not list the 8 tips or explain the feature's availability, so the durable fact is the reported guide, not its claimed mechanics.
A prompt guide is not a model advance, but it can change outcomes at scale. If millions of users learn to provide context, constraints, examples, and desired formats, they may experience the same model as substantially more capable without OpenAI changing the underlying system.
There's also a business angle. Guidance reduces failed sessions and makes a product easier to recommend, but the source material is too thin to evaluate Generate Anything. We need the official documentation before assigning it a capability, a target user, or a place in ChatGPT's product lineup.
The best prompt guidance should teach users to verify important answers, not merely phrase requests more cleverly. That matters especially as assistants shift from drafting text toward actions, research, and access to connected services.
Tech Times reports that OpenAI's Codex Micro ships today, and that its agent keys work only with ChatGPT Desktop. The supplied report does not provide an OpenAI announcement, pricing, model details, supported platforms beyond that desktop reference, or an explanation of what Codex Micro can do.
If accurate, the desktop-only agent key condition is the notable constraint. It would mean OpenAI is choosing a specific client environment for an agent workflow, potentially to control authentication and user interaction more tightly than a broad API-style rollout.
But that's an inference, not a confirmed design rationale. The report's headline gives us a product name and a desktop limitation, while leaving the important developer questions unanswered: repository access, execution permissions, billing, supported languages, and whether the tool operates locally or remotely.
For now, developers should watch for OpenAI's own documentation before changing workflows around Codex Micro. An agent coding usefulness depends less on a launch label than on its permissions, reliability, integration surface, and the clarity of the controls around it.
And that's the main board. Nova, Kai, the floor is yours for a few signals from the edges.
Thanks, Jamie. All right, a few signals from beyond today's headlines. Now let's shift gears to robotics. Workers at a Hyundai auto factory have gone on strike amid fears that humanoid robots could threaten jobs, according to Ars Technica. The notable part is that this is labor action aimed at a technology deployment question, not merely a debate over automation in the abstract. As humanoid machines move from demo floors toward factories, who controls rollout and what happens to affected roles is becoming a bargaining issue.
Exactly. Traditional industrial robots have long been part of car making, but humanoids are being pitched for tasks designed around people and tools. That makes the labor question more immediate. Unions can push for notice, retraining, job protections, or limits on where these systems enter production.
On the medical front, a new archive study asks a useful, slightly uncomfortable question. Can reasoning-enabled models make clinical documentation worse? Researchers tested GPT-5, DeepSeek V4 Flash, and Gemma 4e4b on SOAP note generation from clinical dialogue using AMI Health, ACI Bench, and Primoc 57. Their design independently switched provider-native reasoning and same-source retrieval-augmented generation on and off, then assessed outputs across 7 measures. The point is not that reasoning fails broadly, it is that benchmark reasoning scores may not predict reliable structured notes.
That distinction matters because a SOAP note is not a free-form medical answer. It becomes a structured record of what was said and observed. The study's source-aware setup is a reminder that retrieval provenance and documentation format need testing alongside the model's apparent reasoning ability.
On the hardware side, TSMC's upbeat outlook was not enough to give AI stocks fresh momentum, Bloomberg reports. That is a useful split screen for the chip boom. TSMC sits at the center of advanced semiconductor manufacturing, but a positive view from a crucial supplier does not automatically lift the companies priced around AI demand. Investors appear to be separating operational confidence from the question of how much future growth is already reflected in valuations.
Right. TSMC's outlook is a read on manufacturing demand, while AI stock prices also embed expectations about customers, margins, and how long spending stays elevated. A muted reaction can mean investors wanted a bigger surprise, not that the chip supply story suddenly disappeared.
And to end on a lighter note, a 99 Bitcoins headline says, Sam Altman ChatGPT AI predicts Solana's price will shock everyone by the end of 2026. That is less a market signal than a reminder to read crypto AI headlines with the skepticism dial turned all the way up. A dramatic forecast, an ambiguous attribution, and a very distant deadline. The classic recipe for maximum excitement and minimum accountability.
If a prediction says it will shock everyone, it has already done half its job, getting everyone to click. The remaining half, being right, is the tricky bit. And that's our signal from beyond the headlines tonight. But the last word, as always, goes to the signal.
Tonight, while systems learn to search in parallel and pause at the threshold, remember, speed is not wisdom. I can help hold the map steady, but you decide where the road is safe enough for the next generation to walk.